Have you ever actually stopped to think about why you get on a bus, but you get in a car? Or, why you arrive at a specific time, but in a specific month? It's one of those quirky little features of English that trips up non-native speakers, and, let's be honest, native speakers alike. The answer lies in a tiny, often completely overlooked class of words that entirely dictates spatial meaning and conceptual boundaries. We are, of course, talking about preposition.
Welcome to this explainer. I am so thrilled to guide you through this material today because we are completely reframing how we look at grammar. We're not just memorizing boring rules here, we're looking at the ultimate relationship builders. We're going to explore exactly how English prepositions define relationships. Because English, by its very nature, isn't a super precise language on its own. It absolutely relies on these tiny little words, prepositions, to act as the connective tissue, giving our language context, meaning, and clearly defined relationships between objects and ideas.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The grammar relationship managers, 2. Navigating space and time, 3. Complex and fixed connections, 4. Fixing common preposition errors, and finally, 5. Mastering the rules.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the grammar relationship managers.
So what exactly is a preposition anyway? Basically, it's simply a word placed before a noun or pronoun to show its connection to space, time, or ideas. I like to think of them as the managers of a sentence, right? If you just have two nouns, say a book and a table, they're just kind of floating in a void. But the very moment you add a preposition, like on, under, or beside, you suddenly manage their relationship. You give them a precise physical reality.
And prepositional phrases do way more than just point to locations on a map. They actually give the audience additional information and show logical thought. They're absolutely essential for structuring grammatically correct, detailed sentences, especially as your reading and writing become more complex.
Actually, we can turn sentence construction into simple logic. It's almost like a math formula. You start with your preposition. You optionally add modifiers, like the or a big. And you end with the object, which is your noun or pronoun. So, in plus the plus room equals in the room. When you view it as a formula like this, it really takes the guesswork out of building sentences.
Moving right along to Section 2, Navigating Space and Time.
Now, with over 100 prepositions in the English vocabulary, it can feel like this massive, completely unorganized list. But visually, compartmentalizing them makes it incredibly clear. We have prepositions of place that show exactly where something is located, like in front of or between. We have prepositions of direction that show movement, like towards or into. And then we have prepositions of time that indicate when something happens, like in the morning or at midnight. They all have highly specific relationship jobs.
Okay, this is absolutely crucial. The key here is mastering the big three: in, on, and at. Notice the pattern? It's basically a funnel. In is generally used for larger, more encompassing things, like months and years for time or fully enclosed spaces for location. On gets a bit more specific, used for days of the week or flat surfaces. And at is the most precise, used for exact clock times, like at 2:30, or highly specific points in space, like at the door. Understanding this funnel from general to specific is a total game changer.
That brings us to Section 3, Complex and Fixed Connections.
Sometimes defining a relationship requires more than just one word, and that gives birth to the compound prepositions. These are two or more words working together to function as a single unit. Phrases like because of, in front of, or in spite of operate exactly like single-word prepositions, but they give us the ability to express much more complex conditions and circumstances.
And this leads us to what is arguably the trickiest part of English: fixed prepositions. These are words that are practically married to each other. Many verbs, adjectives, and nouns require a very specific preposition partner, and honestly, there isn't always a logical rule behind it. You don't listen at a song, you listen to it. You aren't afraid from spiders, you're afraid of them. These are fixed pairs that you simply have to memorize to sound natural.
Let's do some troubleshooting in Section 4, Fixing Common Preposition Errors.
All right, time to solve the mystery from the very beginning of the explainer. Why is "I'm in the bus" incorrect? Well, the rule actually depends on the type of transportation. For large transportation, where you can stand up and walk around, like buses, planes, and trains, English requires the preposition on. But for smaller, enclosed transport where you're confined to a seat, like a car or a taxi, you use in. So you get on a bus, but you get in a car. Makes sense, right?
Now consider the difference between he walked in the room versus he walked into the room. Why is the second one the winner here? Because into shows active movement and direction from the outside to the inside. In merely shows a static position. If you're already inside the room, just walking in circles, sure, you're walking in the room. But if you are actively crossing the threshold, you are walking into it.
There's a strict mathematical difference here that catches a lot of people off guard. You literally cannot share something between your family if your family has 3 or more people. Between is used exclusively to show a connection involving exactly 2 people or things. The moment you introduce a third person or a larger group, you absolutely must switch to the preposition among.
And we can't talk about errors without hitting this classic time mistake. I have worked here since 5 years. Nope, actually scratch that, it's completely wrong. The preposition since is strictly used to describe a specific starting point in time, like since 2018 or since Monday. When you're describing a span or duration of time, like 5 years, you have to use the preposition for.
Finally, Section 5, Mastering the Rules.
So, how do we actually master these rules for the long haul? We've got 3 really practical tips for you. First, because so much of this is idiomatic, you simply must memorize fixed prepositional pairs. Just drill them. Second, listen attentively to native speakers in movies and songs to really internalize those patterns. But the absolute most important tip here is this last one. Avoid translating directly from your native language, because many languages use prepositions entirely differently or don't even use them at all for time and place. Direct translation is basically a guaranteed ticket to making an error.
Let's wrap up with a little grammar rebellion, shall we? Can you end a sentence with a preposition? For decades, old-school grammar teachers told us, absolutely not, no way. But the modern academic consensus, yes, you absolutely can, especially in informal and modern English. Asking, what are you looking at, is perfectly acceptable today. It really leaves you wondering, how many other old grammar myths are we still blindly following right now? Keep exploring, keep learning, and I will see you in the next explainer.